An 85-year-old little old lady walked into his office, never invested before in his life, said, I have $50,000, I want to put it in SpaceX.
Come on.
True story.
They literally say in the S1 that the total addressable market is space and time. I mean...
My only advice to Elon Musk is stay alive. Don't get assassinated. Don't get sick. Don't get cancer. We need this guy around for a long time.
And here we go into episode 100 with my man JD and the Zeig dog.
We got two independent publishers, two different personalities, two different temperaments, both of them running an honest conversation about markets and life every single week.
I fucking love it. Consistency. It's the jewel worth wearing. It's the anchor worth weighing. It's the thread worth weaving. It's the battle worth winning. That's a Catherine Pulsifer quote that definitely exemplifies the way we have been running the Macro Dirt podcast since we started. And here we go into episode 100 with my man JD and the Zeig dog. What's going on, man?
Yo.
This is going to be epic? Is that what the kids still call it epic?
They do.
We call it epic.
They've replaced epic with let's go. You know what I mean? but I like that too. So, JD and I decided a while back that if we brought our market conversations into the public realm, that it might help people a lot. Only 5% of podcasts started make it to episode 100. So we are incredibly proud of the work that we've done with the consistency that we've kept. We started our first episode on June 20th, 2024 with our first producer, Braden Ricchini. Shout out to Braden in PA. You're the man. We love you. We started the Macro Dirt dual sub on December 11th and got our first subscriber on December 2nd who broke in while we were beta testing the system. Jason King from Windsor, Colorado was our first dual sub subscriber. Still subscribes to both newsletters. So there's a testament to that product. We faced a fake spam report in September of 2025 and almost got booted, but JD got us back on. We upgraded our production team with Akash, who created our new trailer that you just saw and did an amazing job on my conference. Since the beginning, though, we've been bringing accountable views and great guests like Raoul Pal, Grant Williams, Kevin Muir, Brent Donnelly twice, Paolo Macro, Michael Howell, Brent Johnson, Trevor Hall, Phil Back, Jim Iorio and Bob Iacchino, Larry McDonald, Peter Bookvar, Dave Collum, Zeig Dog himself was a guest on our show. In the coming weeks, we've got George Noble and Mike Green from Simplify Asset Management, and I'm going to hand this whole thing over to the best host in the business, Zeigs. Take it from here, man.
Let's just say 100 episodes, that's 2 years, once a week, no misses. If you've tried to streak anything outside of streaking across a baseball stadium, which ends badly too. If you've tried any length of a streak, you know just how hard this is. I went back, episode 1, NVIDIA continues to soar. Only appropriate, episode 100, would be SpaceX, because how ridiculous can we get? And led me to ask, who is the Elon Musk of the rocket ship that is Macro Dirt? Can there be only one? Is this going to go down Highlander style? Is this the title belt that we're going to fight for in a cage match on this show today for all sorts of reasons? In this corner, I'm on Facebook as Jared the Silky Draws Dillian. And in that corner, I'm going to get you, you bastard. That's what that one's for. And over there, we got Tony Meep Greer, where the Meep is either that dump truck backing off or it's the Roadrunner heading off the cliff. I can't decide which one it is, but they're both relevant. And we're here celebrating this because this is rare. You got two independent publishers, two people with often different time horizons, rare in finance, two different personalities, two different temperaments, both of them running an honest conversation about markets and life every single week. And as a fellow creator of this type of stuff, I so appreciate the streak. We're going to slow it down, look at the big picture, talk about what made you guys, what keeps you going, what 100 episodes actually mean. Are you ready to do this with me?
I'm ready to take my shirt off.
Let's go, JD. Fucking A, man. Shirtless podcast. We have to do one of those.
Truffle shuffle. Here we go. Let's do it. Before we get into the story of the show, I'm starting with this. Tony, you flagged it as we were prepping. SpaceX is going public, has gone public. Debatable what's even going on at this point in the day. What scares you most about this IPO?
You know, definitely that the index operators flogged all the rules about jamming it into the ETFs. You know, that's the biggest thing for me. And then seeing S&P be the adult in the room and say, no, you know, sorry, we're not changing our standards. It's going to be 4 quarters of profitability and 1 year of trading, and then you can be in the SPY. So that, to me, that at an institutional level is just the biggest warning, caution flare. And I know there are other ones, and I want to hear what you guys think.
You know, I have a subscriber who's a financial advisor, and he said an 85-year-old little old lady walked into his office, never invested before in his life, said, I have $50,000, I want to put it in SpaceX.
Come on.
True story.
Did he say what he did? Was he able to talk her down? Was he able to like settle it, or did she just go on to the next brokerage house?
I think
he still has an office.
Yeah.
Shout out to offices. Good
Yeah.
play on the
Yeah,
brokerage
physical
business
office.
picking up SpaceX.
Wow. Ziegs, I want to know what your opinion is on it, though. I'm going to turn the tables here because the best quote that I heard about the SpaceX IPO came from you. What do you think?
If you read the S1, you could just take your DCF, tell the little old lady you never needed to read Ben Graham. You might have dated him once back in the day. Maybe you had a conversation about this. There's no DCF here. They literally say in the S1 that the total addressable market is space and time. I mean, the total addressable market for this podcast might as well include sentient life and other solar systems and AI bots, because that's the part of this. And what it tells you, and I say this from the advisor seat, what that tells you is that you cannot value this in any normal way. You just have to go, I don't know what to think of this. This goes in the proverbial too hard pile.
Yeah.
But if they're telling you that it's worth space, and space is currently worth about 27 trillion and they should be the entire market for that, that's basically the read through on the S1. It's a $5 billion IPO today. It's a tiny percent of free float. The indices, everything else. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Dave Nottig said it best. He was like, price discovery, talk to me in 6 months, and maybe we can start to have a conversation about this.
Yeah. You know what's hairy is that the scenario that they've created where we had this back off in the markets right before this IPO, and now we've got an Iran deal, we've got lower yields, and like the market is so set up, it looks like it's going to inhale the SpaceX IPO and take the NASDAQ to a new all-time high and bid it. Is actually what it looks like, which means it's probably a sale. I just want to convey what the market vibe is with this thing about to hit the tape.
What excites you about this? Jared, do you have anything about this that you find actually exciting? I'm not saying it's desirable to you, although if it is, by all means, take your shirt off and do a celebration dance. What excites you about it?
I mean, I just love Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, the guy's a stud. My only advice to Elon Musk is stay alive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't get assassinated. Don't get sick. Don't get cancer. Like, stay alive. We need this guy around for a long time. You know?
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant. I mean, I kind of laugh at all the detractors, you know, and the people throwing the eggs at Tesla still.
Did you see the Globe and Mail headline on this?
No.
They said Elon Musk will be the first person to have $1 trillion. Here's how to hate him.
Right? I mean, that is the sum total of our society today, right there.
Yep.
Right? That's how we're being trained to think, which is frightening. But no, I'm the biggest fan of the guy as well, and I don't waste time throwing eggs at that guy. I just like to kind of appreciate what he's doing. So,
Is there anything about the company or the idea or the follow-on IPOs that's exciting to you guys? Again, not necessarily his investment thesis, but probably part of the Elon statement, which is big, ambitious people doing big, ambitious things and markets being willing to invest in them, even if hopefully not 85-year-old grandmothers are cashing out the savings bonds for it.
JD, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, getting into the IPO and the valuation and stuff, like, I don't want to look. I wish I had an opportunity to buy it when it was private, like 2-3 years ago. I never had that opportunity. I would have done it then at 200 times sales right now. I don't want to do it, even though it's going to go to 500 times sales. Like I just don't buy the most expensive stock in the world. Like I just don't, out of principle, you know. Like so, that's kind of my feelings on it.
Yeah.
What about you, Tony?
Yeah, put it this way. It's a little bit of a sideshow for sure, but I'm really excited because this is rubber hits the road time for AI, and rubber hits the road time to see if the market is going to absorb, the Google offering, the SpaceX IPO, Anthropic, OpenAI, and everything else that they're going to kind of, show up and try to raise money at these valuations. So the rubber's going to hit the road, and we're going to see what direction the road goes from there. I'm expecting a lot of volatility. I'm expecting an opportunity to short the shit out of some of the ETFs that SpaceX goes into in the first 6 months, and I'm on the edge of my seat looking for those opportunities.
I think this is going to be a very, very interesting next 6 months, if not the remainder of this year into next year, as we figure out what actually happens when we get earnings and all the other stuff inside of this. Any other market thoughts? You guys want to throw anything else on there? It's a super weird weekend here going into the middle of June.
It's super weird.
I think we've had a lot of, bad info and false starts in the war. Like Trump has declared the end of the war like 25 times now. It feels different this time. Looking at the price action in bonds and gold and stocks and FX, like this feels like a real move to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if we walk in on Monday and war's over and, party on, Wayne. So
feels like war is over vibes. The $150 oil people can't make eye contact with anyone today with this thing falling towards $80 through moving average support. Trade's over, whether we like it or not, and it may reemerge, but it's over for now. Interest rates are falling. The fear of a bond market dislocation lower is out of the market, and we have got a prairie to land this IPO on right now. So we'll see.
All right. Well, let's take it in another direction. Let's shift some gears. We got through the market stuff. Godspeed everybody on your homework this weekend while you try to do this. Tony, I want to get into the origin story. You've said before that Jared was one of the first people that you reached out to when you're trying to launch TG Macro. And that is a really, really cool detail. So what did the conversation actually sound like? This is pre-podcast. TG Macro to Jared. How'd that happen?
It was me calling him from my last job saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't work with these people, for these people, and essentially, begged him almost for his blessing or help, asking him if he thought that the newsletter that I wrote to clients could be transformed into a marketable item. And he was like, he gave me some good advice to clean things up and become a little more corporate and commercial and things like that, but thought that my writing and my market analysis would hold up. So that was the biggest vote of confidence that I got, between him and a few of the other mentors that I highly value in my life saying, go for it. I was like, okay, all the Band-Aids came off and I was prepared to launch.
Jared, you've been doing this a long time. Number one, how do you feel about your advice to Tony? You don't want to tell him to hang it up now, right? Like we're not.
No,
there.
I think I gave him good advice. I don't view Tony as a competitor, right? Like if he gets a subscription and I don't, I'm happy. Like good for him. Like everybody wins. Like it's possible. Like that's what we're doing with the macro dual sub. Like we both get to win. So. Look, like I'm kind of one of the OGs in the newsletter space. I've been doing it a really long time, like 18 years. And the business has gotten tougher. Substack, which came out about 5 years ago, has really made it tough. Yeah. Because now you have like ding-dongs everywhere that are starting newsletters. Like there's so much competition out there. And you really have to be differentiated in order to succeed. So, Tony hustles way more than I do. I'm closer to the end than the beginning. I don't know when the end is going to be. I don't really see myself doing this another 18 years, so he hustles way more than I do. But yeah.
Man, that's interesting. It's great to hear. I think part of our success comes from the fact that we do not have that. We are like the inverse of an ego trip between the two of us. Like, I admire Jared, somebody with the level of achievements that he's attained in his life. That's motivating for me. Like, I started off wanting to be mini Jared, and I may never write a book, but the fact that he's written so many and I've read them all, and I look up to him on that level, and that drives me to be better. So that we have kind of a self-fulfilling competitive edge to each other, I think, in some way.
I like the idea of a self-fulfilling competitive edge. Steel sharpens steel, as they like to say. Now, what about Jared, or actually Tony? Did you pitch the podcast to Jared first?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that conversation. I called up JD and I was like, one of the things as an entrepreneur is you're constantly trying to figure out what the hell to do next. And it's the hardest thing to ponder and come up with and have confidence in. And I finally came up with, like, I did wanted to compete on the iPod market level, like I'm a Johnny Carson fan and a late night TV fan, and I kind of love this format, and a Rogan fan. And I was like, all right, JD, I got this idea. You and I are always talking about markets. They're the greatest conversations for me. And I think that if we put this online in podcast form, that people would really, really dig it. I think we'd have a good time with it. What do you think? And his response was as follows, real time. I fucking love it. You know what I mean? And I was sitting there on the edge of my seat like, he's going to fucking blow this down. I'm going to have to find somebody else to do it with. Like, you're just being a crabby bitch right now. And I don't even, and he was like, I love it. And I was like, yes! And we went out and bought the fucking hype sound maker and got the thing started from there.
Jared, what's recording the conversations change about the relationship, if anything?
Look, TG and I have been friends for like 20 years, long time. And we're like little girls texting each other now. We're like 13-year-old girls. It'll be like, 9:30 at night, like on a Sunday night, and we're like texting each other about markets and stuff and talking about the podcast. Right. Like, we talk to each other all the time. We were friends before, but it wasn't as close of a relationship. In the last 2 years, we've gotten to be like amazing friends,
It's been fun. We have a good time, man. And we get excited about this, which is, something that keeps us both motivated. So it's been really, really fun to be a part of. And, I get to get dick jokes, in my text window from JD and know that he's laughing his ass off at them. And I'm like, you are a piece of work, man. But I love it all. I love it all.
So we talked about the streak of it. We're hinting or we're dancing around the grind of this process. There is a creative, emotional cost in one sense because you're just pouring so much time and attention to it. Yes, you can have funny text exchanges, but you still need to get up and produce 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour worth of stuff on top of the written things. How do you think about the cost or the investment side of this? Or is it pure investment? Does it just sweat it out of you, Tony? How's it go for you?
The quote at the beginning is kind of the thing. It's the consistency that challenges you. And when you commit to something like that and you commit to the consistency, JD and I spent a lot of time figuring out when we can sometimes shoehorn these podcasts into our schedule. And that's because we're both adamant about not missing a week. Like, I've traveled to my son's lacrosse games and done them from the hotel, and I've been in California doing a podcast, and he's been on the road, and we are not going to let a week go by without letting it happen. So I think that's the investment. And what we get out of it is, it's kind of like our funnel, to be quite honest with you. We give a chance to people to get to know us for free, and we can add value to their thought process for free. And if they decide they want to dial deeper into the way we're thinking about markets, they can read our newsletter. And that's where the blood goes on the page, man. You know what I mean? That's where it's stripping yourself down to the bare bones and deciding when you want to put your cojones on the table and tell people that this is what I'm doing and you should do this too. And that's where the investment is for me. You know, it's like I live every day by every tick of my P&L, and that's at the bottom of the newsletter. But the newsletter for me works backwards. Like I start with the P&L, trying to figure out how to make more money, and then write a newsletter.
You know, the newsletter for me, the podcast for me is one of the highest ROI things that I can do. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Like it has so much optionality. Like one of these days, we're going to have an episode that goes bananas, that gets to like 500,000 views, you know? And I like cheap options. You know, I do like a book is a cheap option. I mean, yeah, it takes me some time to write it, but I put it out there. Maybe it's a bestseller, right? Like, so I'm always putting these high convexity bets all over the place. And the Macro Dirt podcast is the highest convexity bet that I can make, you know?
Totally.
That's the way I look at it.
That's a great way of putting it. When you realize how many people that you touch with this, you know, you go through the comments on Substack, the comments on YouTube. I mean, I get 5 to 25 emails per episode of people dialing in on a song or putting something else in front of me or saying, hey, come on my podcast. Like, that's the stuff that's, you know, the lightning in a bottle to me.
Now, what about, because you get the good and the bad of, as you're doing that, you have to in part do it all internally and get enough stuff out of your own head. And Tony, I'm thinking about, what did Doomberg say to you about the website when you were launching it?
Trash it. My first one, he was like, okay, this is garbage. You know, we're going to get rid of this and we're going to make this more transactional and we're going to brighten it up and make it a little simpler. And that was the best advice that I had. I followed his advice and started making more money instantly.
Jared, did you get any advice like that from anybody that actually stuck and helped? Versus the real question I want to ask you is, how do you deal with assholes? Because I know you got rules for that too.
Yeah, I wrote about that recently. I mean, look, like, I'm pretty busy these days. You know, I'm managing money, I'm writing books, I'm teaching at school, I'm DJing, I'm doing all this stuff. You know, the responses I get on my newsletter are not always good. You know, sometimes they're critical. I don't mind constructive criticism at all. If somebody is super cool and they're like, hey, I think you can do this better, or you should have said this in a different way or whatever, I'm all for it. But sometimes you get assholes. You just get like flaming assholes. And if somebody is a flaming asshole repeatedly, then I just cut you off. See you later. Yeah. Like, it's not worth the $600 or whatever. Goodbye. So,
you have a policy for that, Tony? You have a way that you handle it?
Yeah, I'm much cooler than I used to be and much more relaxed and non-confrontational. You know, I used to want to take people on that came after me, and now it's just like JD, the beauty of having, you know, several hundred paying subscribers and several hundred loyalists and happy ones is that when the one-off guy starts rattling around your inbox, you're like, dude, you've got a fucking 5-second fuse or you're gone, and I'll cut off your subscription and you'll never read another Navigator again. You know what I mean? And so you go from a position of weakness when you start to like, please don't give me too much criticism, please don't cancel, to a position of, I'm going to write what we're going to write, and we're going to follow the markets the way we want to follow the markets, and the people are going to jump on and off, and if you want to be an asshole, I'm going to kick you off. That's the, you know, barroom rules here. Nothing fancy.
Playground rules.
Yeah, playground rules, man.
Playground rules. And this is the cost of doing it in public. You got to thicken up the skin for this. Has that been set for you since you were writing the newsletter when you're still at Lehman, Jared? Like when it really started at the beginning?
Has what been set?
Has this been set in your mind, the way you both grow the audience but also deal with the people that aren't a good fit for the audience, and you make sure they know? I
mean, the other thing is that, you know, I have one. I don't want to give people the impression that I have a bunch of assholes. I have very few assholes,
Yeah,
like just a tiny amount.
But those
Like
little
most-
tiny things can derail you. Back to like the
Yes,
cheap options. They're the cheapest option in your life that can screw up your entire
Yeah.
trend.
I mean, the vast majority of people are wonderful. And by the way, I have told people that if you had my Microsoft Outlook, you could get rich because they send me so many good ideas. Hey, have you heard about this ETF? Have you heard about this stock? What do you think about this? They send you a chart. And literally, I just have to sit back passively, and I'm at the middle of all this incredible information. I would say I get at least half of my ideas for the newsletter from my subscribers. You know, just being in the middle of this information and just getting that stuff. So,
Really
It's
cool.
it's a really interesting place to be, and it's a really interesting thing to hear about. I want to talk about, you both have different ways of thinking about stuff. I don't know how else to say this. Tony, like the market making place that you came up in, versus Jared, you play in all sorts of different places, from the Awesome Portfolio, which new book on its way, thinking at this high scale, to then more medium to shorter term trends. Have you guys had, Jared, you first, has there been a disagreement on something where you've been on the long side, Tony's been on the short side, or just a complete gap in the middle of your understanding that comes to mind from doing the show?
we've had a ton of disagreements. We disagree about stuff all the time.
What's the most memorable one?
Well,
Though? Give me a
it's not
good
that
one.
there's a most memorable one, but Tony has a bullish bias. I have a bearish bias, and that hardly ever changes.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I'll get a little bit bullish, and sometimes he gets a little bit bearish, but that's generally how we're wired, you know? And like we've, you know, in the 100 episodes, we've never got into a shouting match on markets like it's never happened.
Yeah.
You know, like we just have these great conversations, and sometimes I change his mind a little bit. Sometimes he changes my mind a little bit, you know.
Yeah, this is great, man. You know, what people love about our podcast and our market conversations is that we can so accountably and respectfully disagree with each other without calling anyone a single name. We don't care about the name shit. We want the money. So we're after the money. That means that we're after what's right about the conversation. And, you know, we can have a good time doing it too. Like, I remember, like, there are times that, you know, I'm mostly bullish, like JD said, but there's times when I am, like, tear my shirt off bullish. Like, November 2023, I made this big call. I wrote a newsletter about it, and I was like, JD, what do you think? And he was like, nah. You know, and I'm like, you know, you still bearish, sweetheart? It's 100 points higher, you know, like, and I can bust his balls like that, and that probably helps his thinking. And because I know I'm not the guy that when JD says, hey, you know what, I get bullish bonds down here. I'm not the guy that says, oh, you know, sold the bonds, you know, fade that call, rates are going up. I sit up in my chair and say, what does he see? Because I want to see what he sees, and if he's got this trade right, I got a dozen trades that I can get right here on his back. So there's very healthy competition and respect between the views that we have, and it's only because we're only after the money.
Tony, is there any memorable moment of Jared changing your mind or getting you to have that go look for the alternate, what is he seeing moment? Is there any that jump out?
Tons of them, you know, tons of them. Yeah,
Give me a good one.
Yeah, you know, so remember one was being like, you know, kind of, I think one gold breakout, I was kind of skeptical. I think it was the like 3,500. We broke out from 1,800 to 3K, 3,500. And I was like, you know, this thing's got to shit or get off the pot. And JD's like, this thing is about to explode. And I was like, like really? I'm like, okay, so here are the levels on my chart that say it's going to explode. And then I can buy it through there. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't right. He was right. Let's make the money. You know, like that's what I'm always able to convert to. Like, and there was one, that was a definite time I was fading that level breakout, and he was like, nah, this thing's fine. It's going to go.
Jared, do you have anything where Tony got you thinking or got you pushed out that stands out?
I mean, if I had been listening to Tony on stocks for the last 2 years, I'd probably be a lot richer, you know.
It's been a good 2 years.
So long as one of us is having a good 2 years.
I mean, but the point that Tony is making here is that it, like, I think more than any other newsletter writers or financial pundits or anything like that, like, I'm not trying to get famous. I'm not. I don't need praise. I don't need people to tell me how awesome I am. My ego doesn't need it. I want money.
We are wired exactly.
I just do. I just want to make tons of money. Like, that's the goal here. That's the goal of this podcast. Not to make political points, not to come up with any big ideas. I'm not even necessarily trying to make people deep thinkers. I just want to make money. That's all I care about.
If you're clearly stating your purpose,
Preach.
there are few things as noble as at least knowing what you're actually after and not hiding behind it. There's an element of this too, because both of you have these broader creative lives. So I'm just going to put it at that. And I'd argue that it comes out through the market work. So Jared, we're going to get to the MFA and the DJ thing and whatever else in a second too. But Tony, you've got your cultural layer. Like you said before, it was somewhere between seeing Rogan do this, thinking back to Carson. I know about the music and the guitar and the other habits. How do you see the ecosystem outside of markets informing your view on markets?
Oh, man, it's like that's the level of human authenticity that I pursue. I think, and I think that stuff, I don't know, maybe forces me to be authentic here, in the podcast. And that's those are the things that I'm in love with, the analog things, right? Cooking, playing the guitar, hanging out with my dog, things like that. And being true to that stuff really is for me is like what takes me, what kind of energizes me to do this. You know what I mean? When I get to take that, time away from the screens, it's kind of literally recharge time specifically for coming, nose diving back into markets and risk and things like that. So I guess it kind of serves that a little bit, if that's fair to say.
It's totally fair to say. What about you, Jared? And I feel like we're only watching this broaden for you lately. I feel like there's new activities and interests in the Jared Dillian universe that just keep blossoming and growing here in front of our eyes. How's it help you out?
Jawad Mian, like, he actually has an interesting quote. I think it's on his Twitter bio, but like, he says, like, this is a newsletter on markets and life, which I submit to you are intertwined, which is a pretty good quote, right? So sometimes I get people complaining about the Dirt Nap that I'm writing too much about my DJ gigs, or I'm writing too much about the cats, or I'm writing too much about this. And I'm like, shut the hell up. Like, this is more than just about markets. Like, yes, we're here to make money, but like, I'm not like Johnny Wall that is like, focused on markets like 24/7. Like, we have to have other things that we are interested in, Yeah,
it's a big world out there, and we got to live in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that, I think, and all of it contributes to I think all of it contributes to the authenticity and to the sort of the synapse fires that you generate in listeners, right? When you talk about learning a new guitar song, and a listener that plays guitar is like, oh yeah, I know those exact chords that he's talking about. You know what I mean? And that's something that's like endearing to somebody that's listening. So I think that's
you mentioned like my activities are broadening. One aha moment I had when I was in Boston, I was like, I should start a record label. Like, I should definitely start a record label. Like, I want to produce music, but that's too time consuming for me to do right now. But I have really good taste in music. I think I have exceptional taste. I should start a record label,
Sky's the limit, JD. Go ahead.
Nothing's going to slow you down if you make the time for it, you keep that energy focused, and you know what you're doing it for. Stick with me on this one, Jared. You said writing is also, got to shout out Robert Hagstrom as the great, I think it was the title of the book, Investing is the Last Great Liberal Art, because it allows you to explore all these other things through a concentrated lens. And that was my permission to be in markets and be like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
I can bring all this other crap to the table and it applies. Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll talk about record label horror stories on
Well,
another.
Here's
on
another
date.
here's another semi story. You know, the fact that I happened to make a lot of money. One of my most profitable trades was buying a lot of the internet stocks in '95 because I was ordering, Allman Brothers CDs to my apartment in the Village and downloading them on my Sony, disc maker. I mean, a Sony, handheld, whatever it was, MP3 player. And nobody around me was doing that. I was like, you guys aren't ordering records and doing any of this stuff? Like none of it? And, that led me to buy into, the .com bubble, but early enough to make a lot of money. So that was really freaking exciting. The fact that it was my musical nose that, for the first time in my life, had me technically out in front of anybody else. So that was that.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
On the personal side now, and Jared, I'm drawing off a quote from you. Writing is a big part of staying mentally healthy. What is that? What is the other acts like writing stuff down? Why does that make you mentally healthy? Why is that part of your health routine? Very candidly.
Yeah, I just if I'm not writing, I literally get sick. Like I have to be writing like all the time. I would say on an average day, I write about 5,000 words, maybe less. I'm exaggerating a little bit, 3,000 or 4,000, right? On an average day, I'm writing 3,000 or 4,000 words every single day. The Substack I have, I get absolutely nothing for that. I don't charge for it. It's free, right? And I try to do one post a week, which I generally do, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And I get absolutely nothing for it, If I don't write, I will die. I have to write. So.
That's a great quote.
Tony, what about for you? I feel like it's community. I feel like it's the network of friends, the group chats, some of this stuff for you. But what is it? Where's the mental health come from in all this for you?
There's two things. The way I think about it is like one is that I love, like, where JD said like markets and life are intertwined. Like I love to sense that, where there are just things that going on in the world that are just an exact overlay of what's going on in the markets. That happens all the time, right? But those are the things that you notice when you're an observing journalist type of writer, right? You kind of know what's going on in the background to your financial story, and there's always a cool dovetail there, right? Because that's what life is like, right? There's all those connections. And then the other thing is that I've actually matured tremendously through writing. And that's been important for me because when I was writing at Dahlman Rose and writing my morning note, and nobody could really say anything because I was generating so much money as a sales trader that it was like he throws out some really, really, really third rail comments here, but there's nothing we can do about it because he also puts up a ridiculous P&L, So there was that point where I would write things like, you did not want to be politically opposed to me and read my note because you would have just gotten pissed off. And so now I find that like I write things, and when I read them and I notice a third rail comment, I read it again and then I erase it. You know what I mean? I'm saying writing that was enough. Writing that, getting it out was enough. I don't need to subject somebody else to my wise ass comment about something totally politically charged, right? I just spare them and I go back to talking about markets. But the fact that it came out on my fingers and I read it and I was like, that's a zinger. I don't need to send it anymore. And I make more friends now that I do that, and I have less enemies now, right? And I have less people going, I don't need to hear your bullshit comments about Barack Obama. It's like, fine, that's better. I'll keep them to myself. You keep them to yourself, and we'll talk about markets because we're really only about the money. That's the truth. So it was a great maturity journey for me, as in writing from the hip, like a complete maniac, to wanting to create a product that has guidelines and some rules of engagement. And I think that that's fair.
So we're 100 episodes in. You can hit the third rail if you need to. Extra Ren and Stimpy, though. Don't whiz on the electric fence. It's an important one to remember in life. But I want to go episode 200. Make a call, make a prediction. What's happening on episode 200 of the Macro Dirt podcast, Tony?
At that point, we're going to have Chamath and David Sachs on the show. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a big show by then.
We're all in on Macro Dirt by episode 200?
Well, you know, the 200th episode is going to be a couple of months before the election, 2028 election.
Wow, holy smokes.
I knew I could count on you to have calendared that one out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know what I'll say, Zeegs, is my ultimate goal for the Macro Dirt podcast, and it doesn't necessarily jive with episode number 200, but I want to have a conference, a Macro Dirt dual sub conference in Las Vegas with 2,000 people that spend $2,000 a ticket to come to Vegas, and we put together the best 2-day 10-speaker conference along with dinners and events that anybody's ever gone to. Like, that to me would be one of the coolest things to pull off. And I think JD has kind of similar aspirations, or would consider doing something like that fun, right? Wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're an achiever. You like to put things on the tape, and that's what I love.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get this out. I have big aspirations. Let's put it that way, which is why I continue to do it. You know, the podcast has grown a lot, but it's still not that big in the grand scheme of things. So, like I said before, it's lots of convexity. It's a cheap option. It's got the highest ROI. You know, to do an event like that in Vegas, rent out a club, right? Like, rent out a club with like 2,000 people in it. Bananas. Absolutely bananas. You know,
and we have the fan base to be able to put something like that together. Like, I get so much, I get endless joy reading the comments to our podcast, because 5 out of 7 of them are, this is my favorite, or this is my new favorite. And if that means the world to me. If we're breaking into one brain that says, I love this, then there's more than that. You know, that's like the cockroach theory for me. So that's just really, really exciting to me. Like, our fan base is the bomb.
Well, 200 episodes, a possible Las Vegas vacation. Watch out now. This stuff could really happen. You guys ready to shift to some pop culture? You ready to jump into turn of the century Billboard with me?
Oh, yeah. God, you remember that Y2K? Wait, where was everyone in Y2K? I remember these were my last days and happy days at Goldman Sachs. I knew I was going to be leaving the firm, and I was watching everybody go batshit over the turn of the year because all the computers were going to crash, and we had teams that were Y2K tech teams to make sure that we made it into the new century okay. And I was just like, man, all of this kerfuffle for a calendar. Like, all of a sudden, we have technology, and now because we're changing the calendar one day, there's an entire investment bank up in arms. You know what I mean? I thought that was wild. But where were you guys? I want to hear this.
I was on the floor of the P Coast.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Right on, trading options.
And it's funny because we're going to talk about the top 100 singles of 2000. You know who's in there twice is Savage Garden.
Yes,
you remember Savage Garden?
Yeah.
Like, the Savage Garden appears in All the Evil of This World. I actually talk about Savage Garden.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Where were you, Zeegs?
So I was moving from beautiful northeastern Pennsylvania to Connecticut. That happens in that year. I relocate my life, so that's going on. That was wild. And you want me to kick off the first song? I've got 2 like weird things, but I'm going to kick off this one. The song that when I go down this list, I immediately get the bolt of lightning up my spine. And it's a weird reason, but it's Back at One by Brian McKnight.
Wow, why so?
And the reason is I'm playing in this cover band still, and we're doing weddings. I had to play that song so many times. It was like everybody who got married. Now, here's the trick of that song. And this will wreck DJ Stochastic on this one. I want you to listen to the bridge of this song. I'm not going to say it's the only redeeming part of the song, but it is the part of the song that is so beautifully executed that I was like, even if I'm sick of this song, this one part brings me, this is the lightning bolt. In the bridge, it's the end of the bridge, and it's right before the key change. And what you got to do is you got to count the beats. You just got to go with it. 4 on the floor, the whole DJ set would just explode for you, Jared. It just wouldn't work. But it's basically a 5-bar measure right before the key change. And it's so beautifully executed. And if you play this in front of a room of people, let alone a room of people looking about celebrating romance or women, it's like they all pass out. You get a key change in this 5-bar that throws everybody off on the dance floor. It's pure ecstasy. It's expert songwriting. And I hate that song and I love that song at the same time.
Oh, we got to play that. Are you going to play it? Can we play it? We can't play it on the podcast, though, right? We'll get copyright infringement.
Yeah. YouTube will get you for more than like an eighth of a second at this point. What about you? Somebody else give me a song from the list that's there.
The thong song.
Cisco and Drew Hill. I recorded in the studio.
Hero. JD likes the thong song.
Not Silk. I recorded in the studio that Cisco wrote that song, wrote it in the back.
Oh, great.
They used to do, Drew Hill used to record a lot of stuff in Connecticut, and also they were in Scranton, Pennsylvania, of all places, doing some work. And the legend was the room the thong song got written in.
Oh, that's amazing.
So good.
That's amazing. I tell you, I got to give, starting at the top of the list with, Santana and Rob Thomas, Smooth.
It was a hot one.
It was a hot one. Right. So there it is. There's my lead in is I love songs with banger opening lines. And this one, it was a hot one, 7 inches from the midday sun. Oh, okay, Rob. You know what I mean? I don't know where you're going there, but it's a banger opening line. And what even more, the opening guitar riff is the most instantly recognizable guitar riff in history, or so. It's up there, you know what I mean? And what was amazing was when it was out at the time, you would hear that song on the radio and immediately change it. You're like, because it got so overplayed, and then they were on tour everywhere, and you were like, oh my God, I've got Santana up to my eyeballs, and it's the year 2000. I can't believe it. So that was kind of interesting. But my two favorite songs are on that list. Oddball songs, Kryptonite by 3 Doors Down, and Take a Picture by Filter.
Oh, yeah, that's a great... And which is funny because... So have you seen Filter live? I've seen them live.
Well, they're heavy as hell, right?
They're really heavy, but that one song is the exception.
Yeah, that's what's so wild about it. And
weird standout.
Yeah. That's where you bought the CD, the physical CD back then for that song, and then you heard the rest of it, and you were like, "Oh, this is gnarly," And
By the way, did you know Richard Patrick, the lead singer of Filter? Did you know that his older brother is Robert Patrick, who was Terminator 2?
No.
Yeah.
Wow, there's some good insights.
There's a deep insight.
That is amazing. What's your favorite song on the list, Zeeks?
Oh man, my absolute so first off, I have a traumatic memory of hearing Kryptonite. We're playing in some rock bar, one of my non-cover band, my originals band, and for some reason the sound guy or something was just playing that song. It felt like on loop. And it was just 3 hours from sound check to the show starting where we just heard that song so many times that I was ready to off myself.
Yeah, no, I get that. I like it's on my workout tape, and I really get excited when it comes on.
So first off, this is when pop music just has gone full stupid. I strongly dislike most of this.
Yeah.
I can't hear Kryptonite or 3 Doors Down without when I'm murdering myself. I know you have a soft spot for Third Eye Blind. This is the part where I was like, you should just throw the radio away because rock music has done the worst thing it could ever do to me. Even Filter only gets through on that song. I'm like, come on, give me something I can hold on to. My favorite song on this list when I actually went down it, and I think he's just so wildly underrated as an artist because he just sounds kind of screamy and manic. He sounds like a crazy homeless person accosting you at your local gas station. But Mystical is on that list.
Oh, yeah.
He is a living embodiment of James Brown. I don't think he gets the credit due. And I remember that song being so weird and jarring at the time, but I was like, you listen to it, you listen to the record, and you go, oh man, this guy's on some stuff and nobody knows.
Wow.
That's my moment. What about you?
You know, I got one other song that jumped out at me then, where that was still when, you know, I might have been having conversations about who was the best rapper of all time, and on that list is Eminem and the Real Slim Shady, and I think that that's when, no matter what you think about rap music or anything, the best rapper is Eminem, and I don't think that
I would agree with that. I'm not a big fan of that song. I like his other
Same.
stuff. I don't like that song in particular.
Same, but he rolls the hardest shit into his unbelievable rhymes, does it effortlessly with that falsetto pitch, and it just never stops coming. Like, the guy's the best rapper that ever happened. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm much bigger fan of like Nas and Wu-Tang Clan, but Eminem is the best rapper.
The man did multi-syllabic things like few others, and he holds some credit for that and the references, because him and Blink-182 holding it down for still having a sense of humor.
Yeah.
In 2000, which was in short supply in a lot of music because
great call.
The rest of us were struggling with whatever the Britney Spears situation
Great call.
was.
Like the Real Slim Shady is a parody of himself, right? Essentially. And so that like the goofiness of it, that was really cool.
Yeah. So I have one other quick thing, and then we're going to close this one out. For music in that year, I got a very, very important invitation. Late, I believe, in the year of 2000. I'd have to match it back exactly. But late in the year 2000 is when I get a message from my now wife to play at her birthday party.
Wow, that's cool.
It's like, yeah, you know me through a friend. Like, will you play at this birthday party? And agreed to it, and that following February played at that party. And I would like to say the rest is history. There was like a 15, 20-year gap in the middle there where nothing was there.
Did you know at the party that it was going to happen? When you played and she was like, thanks for playing?
No, because we're like 2.5 years apart, 3 years apart in age. So instead, my brother ends up taking her on a date, which is a whole other funny story. We were like, that girl's cute. Somebody's got to take her out.
Oh, I love it.
But years later, the deal was closed. That was 2000. That's my favorite memory of that. So
that's a good one.
Take me out here. I want a real answer, not a polished one. What's one thing you figured out in 100 episodes of doing this together that you never would have known at one? What do you got, Tony?
Authenticity is everything. You know, that's what JD and I are good at. That's where you know, unvarnished opinions come out and things like that. And I think that's what I feel that, you know, I watch every episode because I edit them carefully. And I feel that the ones that get the most traction are the ones that we're just brutally honest in and, like, you know, coming out with belly laughs because we're being so authentic online, you know. And so that I think is the most important thing to me that I learned along the way. Like, I didn't realize how important it was to be yourself in the conversation and let it rip.
What about you, JD?
You know, I'm still nostalgic for the early days of the podcast when we used to say "hasta la vagina" and stuff like that. Like, I wish we could go back, but we've gotten a little bit more corporate now. So, but it was, I mean, the early days, dude, we let it rip. Like, we did not care. It was really a lot of fun. You know, we've had to button it up a little bit since then.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm glad that we did, because I had a lovely woman come up to me at my conference and literally tear us a new ass for opening our podcast that way. You know what I mean? And, you know, she went into the like, and you have 2 daughters, you know, and like when you get hit with that, you're like, all right, you have no idea that my daughters wouldn't be bothered by this. But at the same time, if somebody's looking at it that way, maybe we should clean that up.
Yeah.
So that was interesting feedback to get at the dinner party at my conference. And she like walked away pissed too. She was like,
well, I applaud your PG-13 efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, just from some of the stuff that I wrote down through this, the whole no competition thing, the no ego thing, consistency, actually both checking yourself, sharpening yourself, it's worth the effort, putting authenticity first. And, man, nostalgia is special. It's important to have a little nostalgia. What else do we got to do? What else do we got to plug? What do we have to say to put the cherry on the top of this ice cream sundae that's Macro Dirt 100?
If you ask me, it is go to Jared's conference in Nashville in October.
I'm going.
You're going. I'm going.
I'll be there.
Come to my conference in Nashville in February. If I learned anything that was a valuable lesson to me, it is that the in-person experience is the luxury item, and that people are sick of their phones and they want to go out and shake hands and have hugs and have disagreements and parties and things like that. So that's where I think you want to center your attention, if you ask me.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah,
Bingo.
no, that's it. Yeah.
Zeegs, you couldn't have done a better job. I can't thank you enough for taking us home as culture consultant on episode 100. We'll have you back on 200. You'll be at the Vegas gig, the whole thing. Dual subscribers, this one's for you. We have an unbelievable retention rate in dual subs that JD and I are super proud of. Occasionally we have one drop off one side, and that doesn't bother us at all. We keep moving forward, and generally the people that subscribe to us get a great double view of the markets, that they work off of each other, and that's useful to everybody. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for attending our concerts and conferences. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing and for being there for us on the podcast every week. Signing off, podcast 100. Peace out, everybody.